So my dilemma on this New Year's 8th year anniversary show is for the Senate nomination for Dick Blackseed, who's retiring. Do we back David Ramadan, who is going to run, because he's the best chance for the Republicans to win and hold the state Senate, even though I think Sturtevant's going to lose and it might not matter? Or do I just say, you know what, David, you drive me bat because you're a hopeless Mitt Romney never-Trumper, and you drive me nuts, but you're my friend, so I'm going to back somebody else that's not as hostile to the president, who will then lose, because no question David has the best chance to win, right? And then I would have to rally the Trump base to back the guy that hates him. You see what a difficult position this puts me in, Mike, right? So basically just over this, my 2019 resolution to stop drinking just went out the window with David Ramadan. And he's joining us now. Former House of Delegates member and hopeless never-Trumper David Ramadan, Republican. David, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. May it be a very blessed and prosperous year for all and for our already great United States of America. Okay,
David, that's such a little... See, even your New Year's wish has to be a little Trump dig, right? This is why you drive me nuts. But I love you. So it's like, it's a tough relationship.
Let me tell you something. Should I decide to run for the seat?
You're going to run. Come on.
You have no choice but to support me. And that is not for political purposes, not because of all the preamble that you put up, but because the furlough will make you support me. It's hands down, I'm her favorite. So you have no choice. However,
I really, you know what? Okay, she runs the company. I have no response to that because it's true. She is, the Fräulein is going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on me to back you for state Senate. Tremendous amount of pressure. No question about it. She is. She's going to put, yes, because she thinks you're
happy home. And you're going to support me regardless should I decide to run. However, there are lots to consider. And there are some great people out there. What the district needs is a Republican that can win. All jokes aside, all pro-Trump, never Trump aside, it's not Trump that runs this district, and it's not Trump that wins this district, and it's not about Trump in this district. It's about fighting highway robbery tolls on the Greenway. It's about making sure the education system is there for what people want it to be. It's about reflecting the high percentage, something around, I haven't looked at statistics recently, but my former House of Delegates seat was mostly in this district, so the numbers are very close. But there's a good 25-30% of immigrant votes in that district, and their priorities and what they look at and what they need, and reaching out to them, and creating relationships with them. That's what this district needs. Not somebody who's flying to Syria and dealing with Assad and calling him the champion of human rights and champion of women's rights. Give me a break. I put out an email yesterday before this news to my mass fellowship that I still have in the area on the Greenway issue. We're fighting another highway Greenway robbery that delegates Bell and Reed had made a backdoor deal with them to give them guaranteed increases until 2056, 38 years of guaranteed increases to a road that already is the most expensive road in the world. You drive 1 mile and you get charged $5, $6, or the 14 miles. That's what people care about, not what Trump does, and this has nothing to do with Trump. So if the Republican Party needs to win the seat, the Republican Party needs to nominate somebody like David Ramadan, not necessarily David Ramadan. There are a lot of great people out there. Supervisor Matt Letourneau is a great candidate for this. Supervisor Ron Meyer is a great candidate for this. And they reflect the important issues of their constituencies. And that's what we need to be thinking about. Otherwise, just hand it to the Democrats. Another like Dick Black person with the seat. Don't even bother run a campaign at that time. Just hand it to the Democrats and save the money.
We're with David Ramadan, former House of Delegates member, Virginia, Republican. Probably has the best chance of anybody, if he's the nominee to replace Dick Black, to hold that seat for the Republicans, which is slipping away. Dick Black could not win that seat, and we had told everybody that. So basically, I had written the state senate to the Democrats and handing the majority gavel to the godfather, Dick Saslaw. And I told Bill Stanley to start, playing ice with Saslaw, mail him candy and things of that nature, because if he's going to get that highway done, he's going to need Saslaw. I'm not sure Sturtevant can win, so I still think Saslaw's got the upper hand. But Ramadan, the only Republican in my judgment that has any chance of holding that seat. But our dilemma is simple. I mean, David Ramadan is a hopeless, drive me bat crap crazy, never Trumper. And so
David Ramadan is a conservative who was a Republican decades before Donald Trump ever was, continues to be a conservative with an A rating from the NRA and an A rating from the American Conservative Unions, ratings that Trump will never have. And my differences with him is on his character. My differences with him is on his big mouth. My differences with him is on the stature that he put these already great United States at. You know my love for this country. You know my American dream. My differences with him is on that, not personal, and not on most policy, although on some policy. No conservative in his right mind will put the trade policies that we're seeing today. No conservative in his right mind who wants to grow the Republican Party and call it a big tent, as we have tried to do for years, comes in and puts these immigration policies that are now. So those differences are real differences, and we really ought to be having a real discussion about them, John, is for the future of this country. If we, as conservatives, lack the capability to govern because of a crazy one person or not, whether you love him, whether he's your dad or mine, whether he's your brother or mine, whether he's or she is, and I hope we do nominate a she to the United States presidency as a Republican first, or elect, not just nominate, whether she is one of our best friends or a sister or a cousin, it doesn't matter. What matters is, in 20 years from now, this country will become a minority-majority country. And if we conservatives want to be able to continue to govern, we need to be able to do so by including the minority, which is going to become a majority in this country. And what Donald Trump has done is alienated and take us back 30, 40, 50 years to the work that many people have been doing in this country on that issue. Now,
yeah, I guess giving everybody a tax cut, and I guess providing better jobs and better pay and higher wages and a better chance to support their family and to move up the economic ladder. I guess that's how he's turned his back on minorities. See, this is why we're not on the same page. And I don't know what you call a conservative. Maybe it's not me. You talk about trade. I'm a protectionist. Been so. I fought NAFTA, TPP, the Korean trade agreement, the disastrous deal we had with the European Union for 30 years. I've fought that. So I'm a protectionist. I believe in his trade policies. I'm an immigration hawk. I don't think if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. You have a landmass. And so, as Milton Friedman said, your conservative hero, you can either have a welfare state or you can have open borders. You can't do both. That's what we have. Right now, do you know that let me just finish.
Whoever said we want open borders?
You.
Whoever said
you want open borders. You want open borders, David?
Find me. I don't want open borders.
Sure you do.
But I want protected borders. I've been saying protect. Go back and search my immigration debates on NPR with Kojo Namdi from 10 years ago. I never, ever said I want. On the contrary, I used to go around and say we want closed borders. But there's a difference what a closed border is. Of course a nation needs a border. A closed border does not mean a big, beautiful, shiny wall, concrete, and I want billions of dollars for it. No. A border means a border. And a border could be electronic and could be fenced, could be open in some areas where there's no, it could be just drones that's monitoring it. We want a secure border. However, we are also a nation of laws. And when you're talking about a nation of laws, let's say laws. The current immigration law says when you arrive and apply for asylum, you're a legal applicant. At that point.
You know that's being
it,
exploited, David. David, come on, you're sounding like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
That we need to stop them at the border and separate them and know they can't process. That's what the law says.
Unbelievable.
Congress for go change the law.
We're trying to change it, all right? But you can't change. Look, they're abusing. These migrants are abusing that law. They've got lawyers down there giving them a script. And here's the thing, David. The Mexican government offered 2,000 work visas to these migrants from Honduras. 2,000 jobs and work visas. They have to. Let me finish. They offer 2,000 one-year work visas. Job, right? Work visa. Mexico. Now, if you're fleeing, whatever it is that you say you're fleeing, okay, and you want asylum, well, Mexico's offering 2,000 of them. You know how many applicants they got? 190. 190 out of 2,000. They don't want a job in Mexico. They want to come to the United States and go on welfare. They don't want to work in Mexico. So the whole thing's baloney, and the new Mexican government, AMLO, snuffed it out. He said, I've got openings for jobs. Here's 2,000 of them. He got 190 applicants right in the caravan. Why?
John, it's not our concern what Mexico does. Our concern is, as a country, we have a law that says anybody can apply for political asylum. Once they do, they obtain a legal status until their case has been adjudicated. Adjudicate them. If they're lying, ship their asses back. If they're not, welcome them in. But we don't demonize them. We don't do the crazy stuff we're doing. We don't say, no, we're not going to accept your application. If you don't want to have political asylum in the country, go change the law.
David, are you going to run or not?
Good to be back. I'm not the only one who can win the seat. There are great guys out there that can win the seat as well. The idea is to make sure we have people running, or we have a candidate running, and really I would hope that everybody would line up behind a certain candidate that reflects the constituency of that district, that understands Eastern Loudoun, that understands the important issues for constituents of Ashburn and South Riding and Sterling. People like Supervisor Matt Letourneau, like Supervisor Ram Myers, are people that are in touch with their constituency. They understand it. They know it.
Give me a break. Ron Myers is not going to. David, I love your inclusive, like all Republicans are great. Look, Ron Myers is a fine young man, right? Ron Myers is not going to win that seat. Anybody that you mention is not going to win that seat. This is Loudoun County, David. It's going blue. The only candidate on the Republican side, and I'm saying this right on the air, that I know that has any chance of winning that seat against a Democrat that is going to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars is you. That's it. There's nobody else can win that. So Ron Meyer can't win that seat or anybody else, right? This is going blue. You're the only person. Ron Meyer can't win that seat. You know what? He can't win that seat.
Their efforts into it.
Can't win the seat.
And
you're the only guy that can win.
Behind whoever the candidate is, there's a big chance that they can keep that seat.
Blah, blah, blah. I know you have to give the Republican line and toe the line, but here's the dilemma that we have.
I'm not telling. I'm taking on. Just said you spent a whole 5 minutes of this section telling everybody how I challenged the number one Republican in the country. I'm not doing the Republican line.
Ron Meyer's not going to win that seat. Look,
I call Trump out every day, multiple times.
I know you drive me nuts.
Keep a Republican.
Here's the choice.
How I see it.
If you're a Republican in Virginia, here's your choice. Right? It's Ramadan driving you crazy every day, doing never Trumper stuff, or Saslaw, the Godfather, as majority leader. That's your choice. And it's not an easy choice to make. It's tough. It's a tough choice.
Hey, Dick Saslaw is quite entertaining. We all know that. What is going to be his saying on this race this time? Remember, he was going to jump off the roof for something. He was going to go to Canada one year for something else. So what's going to be his prediction on this race? That'll be interesting to hear.
Well, I'm going to find out because...
However, I hope to God that Saslaw never becomes the majority leader of that Senate, and we keep that majority in the hands of the good Republicans that are down there, many of whom are good friends.
Well, David, it's going to be fun. The Fräulein and I are having dinner with Dick Black in a couple of weeks in Richmond. He invited us to dinner because he still owes me dinner for the Trump victory 2 years ago. It's the last bet that I've still not collected. And I'm one of these people that, you know what, you got to pay your gambling debts, man. That's what my father told me. My father was a gambler, gambled on baseball every day from March until October. And he said, before you pay your rent, you got to pay your gambling debt. Got to pay up. So finally, I'm collecting from Saslaw after harassing him for 2 years. But that's why I put on all this weight, because all these people have to come and buy me dinner all the time. But look, here's our dilemma. And I'm going to open the phone lines up because David's a friend of mine, 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-5646. Dick Saslaw doesn't want him to run. The Godfather doesn't want him to be the nominee. The Terry McAuliffe doesn't want him to be the nominee. Nobody in the Democratic sphere wants this guy to be the nominee because, look, they're already celebrating taking over the Senate because there was no way that Dick Black could win again, and they knew it. So they're going to put up a candidate. It's going to be a primary. They'll spend, I don't know, $700,000. And the only person they can't beat is David Ramadan. And so he's going to drive them nuts like he drives me nuts. So I don't know what to do. What do you think? 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-JOHN. Coupled with the fact the guy is like, if he campaigns, you don't want to campaign against him. You don't want to debate him. This guy's a beast. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. He's a beast. And you're going to carry your old district big. Besides, David, I never saw anybody work the Indian crowd like you in my life. And there's a lot of Indian Americans in that district, right?
Yes. The Indian American community is the biggest immigrant community in that district. Look, I reached out to them. I opened up the doors. I talked to them. It doesn't take much, John. All it takes is listening to people, joining them at their events, talking to them, figuring out what their priorities are, and then doing it. And I was very proud to get the Indian vote, mostly a vote that votes on the other side, votes for the Democrats. They voted for me in both of my elections. They put me over the top. We passed in Virginia the Diwali Day, the last Saturday of every October, recognizing the biggest Indian event that takes place around the world. And we were the first state in the nation to do so. And therefore we listened, therefore we delivered, and that's how you gain votes, and that's how you gain communities into the GOP. And that Indian vote carried over. Dick Black benefited from that vote because they voted for him as well after I introduced him. Barbara Comstock, of course, this last run didn't work out for her, but the previous run, she benefited from that vote as well because the Indian community came out for her. So once you gain these communities, and as long as you don't aggravate them, as long as you don't call them names, as long as you don't piss them off like Donald Trump does, they will remain loyal to you, and they were loyal to me, and I will always appreciate that.
So here's the other dilemma we have. If you're a Trump supporter in Virginia and you're thinking about David Ramadan, here's the other dilemma we have, because he is going to drive you nuts. But, you know, if he's in the state Senate, right, this has very little national implications here. It's really about Virginia. And, you know, if he's in the Senate, he's going to vote with the Republican majority if they hold the Senate, if somehow Sturtevant hangs on, which is below 50-50 in my judgment. But he's going to do the right thing. All right, I just got a text here from the Fräulein, my wife, who said, you know, I love David. I think he'd be great in the state Senate. Plus, that keeps him out of Trump's hair. So, I mean, there's a way to spin this. Now, let me just tell everybody this story. So 7 years ago, we were in Washington, D.C., and we were thinking of moving there because we had a station there, and that's kind of where our business was headed. So Ann said, okay, let's move there. Let's look at houses and stuff, areas to live. So we went to Loudoun County, and that's the area she wanted. So she's in Chesapeake, and I'm in Loudoun County, wherever neighborhood we were in. And I said, honey, I think I found the house. And I sent her the pictures, and I sent her all this stuff. And I'm like, I think we found the perfect spot. It's in our price range. The high school coming up that we want, middle school, Freedom Middle School, everything is there. I think this is perfect for us, right? So you would think she'd say, great, book a meeting. I'll come up and see it. Know what she says to me? She says, whose house district is it in? I'm like, how the hell do I know? She's like, no, find out if it's in Ramadan's district. So I'm like, I don't know what district. I don't even know the area. So I call his office, and I get somebody answers the phone, and I give the address. And I'm like, I got to find out if this is in the district. And so the person, your intern or whatever, puts me on hold, comes back and said, no, you're about a half mile out. It ends here. The house is not in the district. It's in somebody else's. So I called my wife back, and I'm like, well, we're in this other person's House of Delegates district. Like, who cares? Not Ramadan. And she says to me, scratch it off the list. I'm like, what?
Is the best, and she certainly is the best thing that ever happened to you, my friend.
I know. She says, if I'm going to go to Northern Virginia, I'm going to live in Ramadan's house district. Find a house in his district. I'm like, who the hell cares? So that's what I got to deal with. All right, I got a phone call here. Slumlord George, you're on the phone with me and David Ramadan.
Hello, John and David. Hey, I wanted to ask you this. It sounds like David isn't against open borders, and I want to ask him this. What value do you think these people are bringing to this country other than being resource suckers? It's not like it's a group of engineers, doctors, people that are helping this country. They're coming here to get away from some oppression. They're coming here to get on welfare. And I'm not saying they're not here to work necessarily, but I just don't see the value in these folks. If you want to come into this country, you need to come into this country legally. You need to go through the avenues that you have to go through involving learning some of our processes, our laws, our language. What value do we have with these open borders? That's what I want to hear, David. What is your stance on this?
Oh my God, so much to cover. We're going to need another section for this, just for this question, John. But let me quickly say first,
we got five minutes.
Give him my email. I'll be happy to send him all the resources that he needs to get this issue correctly. One, they are legal the minute that they apply for asylum. They become legal immigrant applicants. Period. They're no longer illegal. That is our laws. That's what Congress passed. Like it or not, that is the fact. Two, they are hard workers who will work hard, who will get a work permit if they were approved, and will contribute to labor. Some of them will go to schools. Some of them will go to colleges. Some of them will become doctors. Some of them will become engineers. But even if they never become doctors of engineers, our houses are built with immigrant labor. Our fruit is picked by immigrant labor. Our roads are built by immigrant labor. And those are facts. Three, they don't suck anything because they do not qualify for Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security or any of our social programs. Their kids might, and the majority of them do not use it. But no adult will benefit from our social programs, not even when they get their green cards and while they're paying their taxes. They only do so after they become an American citizen. And to become an American citizen, they would have to learn the language and take a test. They'd have to learn the political history and civics and take a test. They will have to have no crime ever committed in order to pass. It's a long process, and they would have done it all legally if they are approved. If they are not approved, then they will be denied and should be deported. And if they're not deported, at that point, because they were denied asylum, it's shameful on the administration that doesn't deport them because the laws allow them to do so. So there's a lot of misinformation on the subject, my friend, and I would encourage you to stop listening to Fox News and just listen and listening to the negative on this when it's mostly false.
All right, I got to read a couple of texts here. Let's see. Joe Morrissey of the Fighting Joe Morrissey Show progressive Democrat. By the way, he's on after me on WJFN 100.5 FM and WJFNradio.com 10 to noon. Joe says, David Ramadan's a good man. Now, this is coming from a progressive Democrat, Joe Morrissey, served with David in the House. Says, David Ramadan's a good man. John, don't make loving Trump be a litmus test. Sounds like my wife. Let's see. We got Sean in Newport News says, never Trumpers are too emotionally unstable to be trusted.
Good Lord. No, it's not a cult at all, right? Yeah. keep telling me Trumpism is not a cult, John. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, and Sean, I'm sorry to laugh, but we've also got Sean in Northern Virginia says, never Trumpers should start their own party. So, you got some people like you, some don't, but you're the only guy that can win. That's why this is going to be very interesting. I don't know who else is going to run. David's going to run. Let me just say that. He hasn't said it. He's got to, organize, but he is going to run for this seat, and he's going to be the favorite going into the nomination, and he's the only guy that can win. And he's Dick Saslow's worst nightmare, and it doesn't matter how much money they raise, going to beat them. So it's a real dilemma. And so
money is very important in this race. However, money is not the deciding factor in this race.
No,
it's the candidate who's going to spend time going to door, talking to people and relating with them and making sure he listens or he or she listens to them, not just tell them what he or she wants, and making sure not to wear his philosophies on his sleeve. I remain to be a conservative, always was, always will be, social and fiscal. However, when I ran to represent the constituents of my district, and that's what I did. And that's what the next candidate for the seat to replace Dick Black should do.
Well, you'll get outspent 2-1, but you'll raise enough money to be competitive, and if you run, you'll win. So let me just ask you one policy question that has to do with Virginia. Equal Rights Amendment. Are you for it or opposed to it restarting in Virginia?
So let me rephrase the question. Are we all for equal rights? Absolutely. Who is not for equal rights? Everybody is. But are we for voting for the Equal Rights Amendment that expired so many years ago, and just adding on the books a amendment that does nothing because Congress gave it a time limit, that time limit expired? No, of course not. I will not vote for something that will, and by the way, this came up. I was on the Privileges and Elections Committee when ERA came to us several times. And several times I said, I am for equal rights if you have a new amendment that comes out of Congress. If there's not a new amendment coming out of Congress, we're voting for something that expired, and that's just a null vote, and there's no need to it. So if Congress passes an extension, and if I had been in the Virginia House or Senate at the time, yes, I would have voted for it. However, as long as it is an expired extension or an expired amendment to the U.S. Constitution, then you're ratifying something that doesn't exist. That's not what a legislator should do.
John Fredericks Radio Network. We're out of time. David Ramadan expected to run for Virginia State Senate for the Republican nomination for the retiring seat of Dick Black. That is the seat that is likely to determine who controls the Virginia Senate in 2020. Will it be the Godfather Dick Saslaw or somebody else? Ramadan, Dick Saslaw's worst nightmare on the face of the earth for getting back the majority gavel.